Hi and welcome to the first show of Megabytes, where we speak to leaders from the world of business and technology, and the first live studio on Periscope, the live streaming platform of Twitter, are partners for this exciting effort. Now, some background to today's interview. India's economy is expected to grow at 7.6% in the current year. A high growth rate like this should mean that businesses are expanding, industry is growing, and jobs are being created. But this may not be simple. Some 10 million young people are entering the job market every year, and barely a million are getting jobs. Now, so the larger question for young Indians thus is, will India continue to be a fast growth economy? Will it grow faster so as to create more opportunities for everyone? And most importantly, how will this happen? Let me welcome our first guest on Megabytes, and someone who is best placed to answer this and your questions today, Adi Godrej, Chairman of Godrej Group, one of India's largest and oldest consumer product brands, and a household name not just in India but countries across the world. Mr. Godrej, thank you very much for joining us on this first Twitter Periscope broadcast.
Good talking to you.
Right. So, Mr. Godrej, let me start with something simple. So, what's your most favorite Godrej brand? You cannot say all brands are good. So, you have to name one product that you like the most.
Well, if I had to choose one, I'll say Cinthol soap.
And why is that?
Oh, because it's a very old brand, very successful, and continues to grow.
And what does the story of Cinthol represent, Mr. Godrej? Does it represent the success of the consumer product brand in some ways? Does it represent something larger?
It represents strong success through very good technology. From the very beginning, it was made from a technology called fatty acid for soap making, which we almost invented. And it also contains a germ killer, which creates for both germ killing quality, germ protection quality, as well as deodorant protection quality for the soap.
Right.
And it has been extremely successful and has added a lot of value to our growth.
Right. So the question that we are trying to address, Mr. Godrej, today is, so what's the future looking like for India, for its people, for young Indians, for jobs? So tell us, I mean, we hear a lot of numbers. So we're told that India is growing fast, 7.6% growth, but jobs are not getting created at the same pace. Companies like you are expanding, but not necessarily with more jobs, or sometimes outside the country. So how do people interpret this situation?
Well, I beg to disagree. I think India is doing extremely well. India has never been in a better economic position as we are now. I think the GDP growth rate this year will be anywhere between 7.5 and 8%, and next year it can be much higher. Right. I think there are several factors which are leading to this. One is we have a majority government which is free enterprise oriented and reform oriented. And that is beginning to tell. We have already passed the constitutional amendment and again passed by more than half the states of the GST implementation, which is likely to be by 1st of April 2017. This will add 1.5 to 2 percentage points to India's GDP growth rate. And it is quite likely that India might get into double-digit GDP growth from next year onwards. The monsoon has been good after 2 bad monsoons, and the next monsoon is also likely to be good because of the La Nina developing in the Pacific Ocean. So all in all, India is in a very good economic position. And I don't agree with you on the job situation. The jobs created in organized industry might not be very high, but there are a tremendous number of jobs being created in the informal sector, in the services sector, in retailing, in logistics, and with the GST coming into place, I think their growth increasing, even more jobs will be created. We should not be too concerned about improvement in productivity in various sectors, which might slow down job creation, but the higher growth will lead to higher consumption, higher production, and therefore higher job creation.
And what are the trends that you're seeing from your own company, Mr. Godrej? If you were to look at, let's say, the last 2 quarters of the last year, and if you were to extrapolate that going forward, are you seeing a pickup and sort of significant pickup in demand for the products and services that you retail?
Consumer offtake pickup was a little slow. That was because whilst real GDP growth was doing well, nominal GDP growth because of very low inflation, in fact, negative wholesale price index inflation, nominal GDP growth was low. Now, nominal GDP growth is also picking up very well, and we're seeing from the second quarter onwards better growth, and we expect the second half to be even better. So overall, I think growth is picking up in the country, and I think next year will be a very high growth rate.
Right. So let me come back to the point that you made. You talked about why organized industry is not growing or not expanding in terms of job creation or capacity at the same pace. Isn't that something to be concerned about?
No, I didn't say it is not growing at the same pace. It is growing well. But remember, a very small part of the total employment in the country is in organized industry. First of all, a small part of the total employment in the country is in industry. A small part of it is in organized industry. A lot of it is in small scale industry, spread out industry. A lot of jobs are in the services sector. A lot of jobs are in the agriculture sector. So you must remember that there are jobs being created in all these sectors. For example, in agriculture this year, there will be more jobs being created. There will be agricultural production will be much higher. For example, the pulses production this year will be around 30 to 40% higher than last year.
Right. So if you were to position this or be talking to, let's say, a bunch of youngsters, for a lot of people, let's say, working with a company like Godrej is something to look forward to and is something to aspire to. What would you tell them today? I mean, how would you ask them to look at opportunities either in this expanding economy, as you say, or let's say some of the sort of future horizon businesses that lie ahead?
I think skilling and training will be very important. I think there is no unemployment in India. It's only unemployability. There are a lot of jobs which are not being filled because we are not able to get people with the right qualifications. So skilling and training, not just education, will be extremely important. And I think once skilling and training takes off and the government and the private sector is paying a lot of attention to it, I think it will add to a lot of jobs. Another thing which will add to a lot of jobs is self-employment. Instead of becoming job seekers, I think people should be job givers and self-employment opportunity a lot. For example, we are training a lot of women to run salons, hair salons from their homes. We are in this business that is adding a lot of value to our business, and that is adding a lot of value to their employment and income creation.
Right. So, I mean, a lot of people are talking about self-employment. They're also talking about smaller enterprises, very nimble organizations which are only 4 or 5 people strong. When we think of a country of the size of India, which is, 1.3 billion and almost half of that below the age of 25, is self-employment a solution or an opportunity, and will everyone be able to take it up? Because do we have the infrastructure, the soft infrastructure to drive that?
It will certainly be an opportunity, but not the only opportunity. We must remember, a country of India's size, we're the 3rd largest economy in the world by purchasing power parity now. A country of India's size must rely on every avenue of growth. We can't say we will go on manufacturing. We must be pay as much attention to services and agriculture. We must have all sorts of enterprises in the country, large enterprises, medium enterprises, small enterprises, new enterprises. A country of India's size and dimensions, but must look at all possible opportunities.
Right. So if you were to look at, let's say, the next couple of years, I mean, tell us about what you are investing. I mean, in what areas, which in turn would be a reflection of where you see the opportunities. And if you could mention geographies as well.
We are looking at a lot of opportunities across our businesses, especially our consumer businesses. About 750 million Indians use our products. We'd like to increase this number to almost the entire population. We are present both in manufacturing and in terms of consumption across the country. We would like to expand that. And we think there will be a lot of investment opportunities in India over the next 3 years because of the way the country is growing, as I explained, and the very fortunate position we are in today. And I expect this will help our group to grow tremendously.
Right. So could you outline 1 or 2 specific areas?
Oh, For example, we think there will be a lot of scope in our consumer products business, FMCG business. There will be a lot of scope in our agri businesses. We are the leaders in animal feeds in India, in the oil palm industry, in the agri chemicals industry. We think there will be tremendous opportunities in the real estate sector over the next 3 years, although the overall real estate sector is growing slowly. But we have had our best year in our real estate business in the last financial year. So we expect growth in a lot of our businesses.
Right. So can I ask you a slightly more social question? I mean, how would you look at the environment today when it comes to conduciveness for investment and growth? I mean, so one is the economic environment and the consumption, but would you, I mean, do you have any concerns, or is there anything that you would like to say on the social side?
There are concerns, but I think things are improving. For example, on competitiveness, the World Economic Forum released its ranking for the last year just a couple of days ago, and we grew, I think, by 16 numbers in our ranking to 39 in the world, which is very good. And I think things are improving. Ease of doing business is also improving. However, a lot more needs to be done. We should constantly look at improving ourselves, whether it is government action, whether it is private sector, whether it is individuals. Constant, continuous improvement is very important for our country.
Right. So, Mr. Godrej, there's a question that's come in. So it says, when are you going to join Twitter?
No, I don't think I will. First of all, I'm from a generation that is not used to this kind of thing. Other people, younger people in the family will. But I don't want to be to join Twitter.
Okay. Right. So are you averse to all of social media, or is it only Twitter?
No, all of social media. I don't want to be regularly on although I do interact with the social media like I am doing now. I don't want to do it on a regular basis.
Right. Okay. So let me come back to the social part that we spoke of. So if you and you said that India is looking strong. I mean, all the preconditions are very sound. What are the concerns that you have? I mean, even for your own expansion as a company that is within the country, as well as for the larger economy and industry as in general.
Well, we are a very large country. We are a very diverse country. So social cohesion is very important. You had mentioned that earlier. Currently, we have a serious problem going on with our major neighbor, Pakistan. That needs to be resolved. And we should do it in a manner which is not just fair and seem to be fair, but also where India benefits through the solution. And I think terrorism is an issue, and we need to be careful about it. The monsoons could be a problem from time to time. We don't have control over it. So there are many issues such as these which we should be concerned about. But let me tell you that I think the possibilities are huge. The probabilities of things going wrong are low.
Right. So you talked about social cohesion. I mean, is that something that you want to amplify a little further? Because there are some who feel that we're at a slightly brittle point when we come to social cohesion. I think you've also talked about it in the past.
We should ensure that our policies are such that they are inclusive. I think we should encourage free enterprise. It has always helped growth. And we should see to it that no social tension is created by any policies, whether from the government or from various interest groups in the country.
Right. And is that something that you feel the government can address in a firmer manner than it is doing today?
No, I wouldn't like to say that. I think the government is doing a good job. However, all of us should ensure that we work well together. And the current example of the GST being passed after almost 8 or 10 years of discussion is a situation where we are working well together, and we should continue on that one.
Right. So let me come back to a young, let's say, an engineer or a management graduate who's stepping out into the world, perhaps applying to your organization, other similar organizations. What should they be thinking of today, and how should they be viewing India, the landscape, let's say, a few decades ahead?
Well, they should look at a very positive future for India, see how they fit into it, look at a few years ahead and how they will plan their career and their objectives. For that, you were talking of clearly highly educated people. They should look to leadership roles. what importance that has in the scheme of things, and be clear that they have a great opportunity in a great country which is likely to be the largest economy in the world by purchasing power parity by 2050.
Right, and yeah, exactly. So you talked about the ones who are educated, the ones who have access. So what about the people who are not? Do you see organizations, companies like Godrej playing a greater role in inclusion? I mean, I know you already are.
Yes, definitely so. I think the most important thing is we should provide opportunity to all our people. The greatest thing is opportunity. So whether it is education, but as I mentioned earlier, to skilling and training is also not just formal education, but skilling and training can be very important. And we should see to it that all our people have an opportunity. Right. And the people concerned should see to it that they grab these opportunities. It's very important to take the opportunities that are available and not just let them bypass you.
Right. So here's another question, and perhaps the last one, Mr. Godrej. So what are your 3 mantras for success?
Oh, I think hard work is extremely important. I think a healthy life is very important, not just work. And I think social relevance is very important. I think people who are successful, even in the early times of success, should give back to society all the time.
Right, and absolutely last question. This asks, what is the one piece of advice you wish you had received when you were starting out as a young man?
Well, I think if I had received advice to be a better listener when I started off, I think I would have benefited.
Right. Mr. Godrej, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for speaking to us and being with us on our first Twitter Live Periscope broadcast. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.